The time's 7 minutes now past 8 o'clock. Prince Harry's battle with the British tabloids continued when he accused Mirror Group newspapers of phone hacking and gaining information by deception yesterday.
But today it is the turn of Nikki Sanderson, who makes her case against the publishers. Let's speak to the ex-newspaper editor and media commentator Neil Wallis, who can tell us about the whole case against the newspaper group. So what are we expecting to hear in court today then, Neil?
I think we've moved on from Prince Harry and we're going to varied minor celebrities who are simply going to recount their claims that at some point they were either phone hacked or suffered some kind of illegal activity. I think the thing that the viewers ought to remember is this is pretty historic stuff. This isn't talking about modern day media. The phone hacking saga actually began 17 years ago, August 2006. And I don't think any credible pundit has said or revealed since then any kind of continuation of the practice. I think it came as a huge shock to Fleet Street to know that A, they'd been caught, and B, that it was actually illegal what they were doing. And so we are talking stuff that happened a long time ago. That's not to say, in the case of Nikki Sanderson or any of the others, that this was in any way anything other than illegal, hurtful, wrongful. But just for your readers to remember, it's all pretty ancient stuff.
First of all, we should remind people who Nikki Sanderson is, if they don't. She was the former Coronation Street actress. She is an actress. And Neil, there would have been a time come, particularly a weekend, that we would have picked up the papers and we would have seen lots of stories into the personal lives of people like Nikki. Is it just me, or are we seeing less of those stories based on that type of person?
Well, I think it's a mixture of things, Eamon. It isn't just you, though many things can be attributed to you, of course. But it really comes down to the Leveson Tribunal in 2012, after which there was an explosion, as it were, in two things. One, privacy rights. People found it much, much easier to actually go to a court and get injunctions and to block and to say damages and obtain damages for what were once pretty common newspaper fodder. And because of Leveson, because of the sort of public opinion turnaround against tabloid newspapers, the appetite for them within the newspaper industry, I think, has been diminished. Anything goes that was once accused of the tabloids has gone. And newspapers are much Neil.
But the damage and the hurt of that era certainly remains, and that's what Prince Harry has been talking about, isn't it, over the last 2 days? It was being described as polite but spiky in the witness box yesterday, with things ramped up a little bit on the second day for both the barrister and indeed for him. How do you think his case has gone? Because it seems as though, well, from our assessment anyway, he sort of tied himself up in knots a little bit in terms of providing the evidence and meeting that threshold.
Well, I think there's a headline in the Daily Mail, I think it is today, that essentially says, has the Mirror KC asking him, is there any evidence, can you provide any evidence, hard evidence, that you were phone hacked? And Harry had to admit this on a number of occasions, no, there simply isn't. He believes there was, and it's sort of, I think it is something he appears to need to believe, that everything that happened to him was down to malpractice by journalists and private investigators, etc. And he certainly has made it a crusade, and in the process, incidentally, dragged all this back into the public arena, and it is damaging to the print media that this is all out there yet again. But what came through over the last 2 days is Harry has not provided a shred of hard evidence about it. And it's worth remembering that after those arrests back in 2006, for the following 5 years, Scotland Yard actually had hundreds of police officers, and I mean literally hundreds of police officers, investigating phone hacking. And they investigated exhaustively the newspapers, the main culprits of this, and they simply found no evidence that supports any suggestion that Prince Harry was phone hacked.
OK. Neil Wallis, ex-newspaper editor and media commentator, with his assessment on Harry's case at the High Court. Thank you very much indeed.